Recovery Queen Melissa presents Tales from the Trap.
I wasn't out there because I liked it. I was out there because I had to. I was out there because the needle whispered louder than reason. Because once I got that first shot in me, everything else in the world disappeared. Time, food, sleep, fear, even my own name stopped mattering. I chased it like it owed me something. Like maybe the next hit would finally be enough. But you know, it never was. And when the money ran out and the dealers stopped fronting me dope, my body became the currency. I didn't sell it for shoes or purses or to get my nails or hair done. I sold it for silence. I sold it for escape. I sold it for the next rush that I knew was going to ruin me. But I needed it anyway. I wasn't a woman out there. I was like a ghost in heels, skin wrapped around a craving. And every single time I left a car, I left a piece of me behind. You know, it's easy to judge from the outside. It's easy to scroll past girls like me with stories like mine and just shake your head. But you weren't there on day 5, were you? You weren't there when I was hearing voices and seeing shadows. My heart slamming against my chest like it was trying to escape. You weren't there when one minute I was begging God to take me away from this earth, and the next I was begging for another hit. I didn't love the streets. I didn't love the men. I didn't love the life. I didn't love anything that I was doing. But I loved that first blast of numb, that second of silence, that moment when I didn't even have to be me. So no, I wasn't out there because I liked it. I was out there because I was so far gone, I had no idea that there was another way to live. And if you've never been consumed by something like that, if you've never had to make deals with the devil just to shut your mind up, you don't get to judge me. Because I didn't just survive the trap and the streets. I survived myself. I survived my own brain. And I came back with fire in my chest, truth on my tongue, and a story that the world needs to hear. So now when you look at me, you might see the makeup, the nails, the hair, the clean time, and the smile. But know this, that smile was carved out of pain. That strength. I built it out of the ashes that I used to get high in. And yeah, maybe I didn't come back soft. Maybe I didn't come back whole. But I came back, and that is more than some of us will ever get to say. So when I speak for the girls who didn't make it out. For the girls who are still out there missing. For the girls, for the mothers out there in active addiction who don't get to tuck in their children at night. I speak for the ones that are still out there running on empty, and the ones still trading their skin for peace. And if that makes you uncomfortable, good, because it means you're listening. And if you're listening, then maybe that means someone out there is listening too. And maybe they'll have a chance to come home. Hi, my name is Melissa, and this is Tales from the Trap. Today I'm talking about one of the most painful chapters of my story, when I lost my kids. When I sat in jail knowing they were gone, and how the courts didn't see me as a mother, just an addict they were tired of trying to save. But I'm here now, and I'm standing, and I did get my children back. So I remember the knock on the door. I remember the sick feeling in my stomach. And I remember telling myself it wasn't going to happen until it did. So there had been an escalation of domestic violence mixed with severe drug use that was completely spiraling out of control. And at first, I felt like I had a handle on it because we always had somebody there that was sober. My girlfriend was always with us. We were staying with her, even though we had our full house. But because my parents lived next door, we literally at the end packed everything up and moved into my friend's house down the street. We were hiding from everybody at that point. I wasn't coming out of the house because I was always high. My parents would come over to play with the kids in the backyard, and I would talk to them through the upstairs window because I was fucking high out of my face. There were times where I would get really high and then be like, I'm going to go take Cadence to the mall and go get my nine-year-old daughter at the time and like bring her shopping twapped out of my fucking head after I just did a big smash of cocaine. Like the things that we were doing was reprehensible. Let me just say that. But I will admit it because it's raw and it's real and it's fucking honest, and people are living this life every single fucking day with beautiful photos all over Facebook that depict them as a perfect little beautiful young family when in reality they're drowning in their addiction. And that's what was happening to us. And it was just getting worse and worse. And what kind of compounded it was the fact that my partner at the time, my daughter's dad had really, really bad psychosis. So I was managing our addiction, our children, trying to hide it all and trying to keep him sane. He was stealing my car. He was stealing money and drugs, and he wasn't making a lot of sense most of the time. He was getting extremely violent, and it was happening around the children. So I remember we were on a bender, and the night before, I had fell asleep for probably 8 hours and allowed my 2 and 3-year-old daughters just to fend for themselves in the house. And this, what I'm about to tell you, haunted me for a really, really long time. But Aria pulled food off the counter to feed her sister while I was just sleeping on the couch for God knows how long. And the next day, I was up early because I was sleeping all night long. I was probably out for hours and hours and hours. And my parents walked in on me screaming at my 3-year-old. And my mom looked at me and she goes, "There's something fucking wrong." And she grabbed Aria. She didn't take Emily, but she grabbed Fee and she left with my dad. And I was like, oh my God, they're calling Children's Aid. So we had Children's Aid involved all the time because we were constantly getting into it with the police, and there was always just drama. So Children's Aid was constantly being called on us. I think we had just had a file closed. And then there was a big blowout in the morning, and he was throwing shit all over the house, and the neighbors heard it all happened and the cops got called. So we were battling Children's Aid already. And I kept saying to my friend, like, I am going to lose my kids. I remember crying and crying and crying and knowing that I was not strong enough to do anything about it. My addiction was louder than my voice at that time. It was so animalistic. It was primal. I didn't know how to do anything other than get high and get money to get high. That was my goal every day. And as the days went on, it would just get more fierce and more fierce. And he was getting more delusional. And the kids were in the mix of it all. We were hanging out with drug dealers and pimps, and it was a mess. And I knew the only power I had left as their mother was to get them the fuck out of it. So my mom leaves. She calls child protection. They show up. And I looked at him when I opened the door and I realized it was CPS, I looked at him and I said, don't fucking let them in our house. And I took off next door to my mom's and I was banging at the door, but she wasn't home because she had went to my grandmother's to have a little meeting with her sister and my grandma and my dad or whatever the fuck they were doing. So they weren't home. So I'm banging and banging. And then I'm like, fuck. So I run back. And when I run across the yard, he had let them in the house. So I was like, what the fuck? There was needles all upstairs. Like I was terrified. There was barely any food in the fridge. The house was not the way I usually would have kept it if I was in sound mind, but I was not. And I will reiterate this over and over and over again. The decisions that this girl was making will baffle me until the day I lay on my deathbed. I hope that there is a way, and I hate to go off this tangent, but I am while I'm thinking about it. I hope when we go to the afterlife that I have the opportunity to have a little fucking sit down with the girl in this photo. I would really like to know a few fucking things because my logical brain cannot wrap my head around the choices these people were making, that I decided that it was a better idea to say fuck you to my friends, my family, my babies, and everybody who loved me. Say fuck you, I'm gone, and go and run and live in a fucking trap house for the next 2 years. A year of which I spent pregnant on the streets. Like, what the fuck? And I'll never understand. So I hope when I die, I get to have a little sit down with 2016 Melissa, because I'd have a little chat with her. Let me just say that. So CAS is looking at my home and they come back to the door. I'm smoking outside because I'm tripping. I'm letting him deal with it. And in my head, I'm thinking like, this is my fucking opportunity. And I was hoping to fucking God they were going to do something. I was praying that they were actually going to intervene then and there, not just open a file and watch us and look at our urine samples at the clinic. We knew how to fucking manipulate all that shit. I was a professional at manipulating child protection. I knew exactly what I needed to do to get false positives, and I knew what I was doing. I could manipulate doctors and nurses and CPS and everybody in between. So I knew that if they left, it was just going to keep going. And I knew that we were at the point where we had come to a crossroads again. And the crossroads was you either ask for fucking help, tell them you're full of shit, and take my motherfucking children out of here because they're going to end up getting hurt, or keep doing exactly what you're doing, keep lying, keep using your children as a cloak to hide what's actually going on, because that's what we were literally doing. We were using our babies as a means to cover up the fucking shenanigans that were going on, right? Because God forbid that anybody would do what we were doing with toddlers. Sometimes I get so fucking angry because I never will be able to wrap my head around it. Like and not just one adult. There were shit tons of us, bruh. There were so many of us. There were like 6 fucking adults. And we didn't do, like, what? What? So child protection says the kids look great. It was just Emily there. My mom had taken Aria. So it's just little Emily. She's not even 2. And she says, the kid looks great. She's bonded to you. She loves you. She loves her dad. The house looks great. You got food in the fridge. Like, and we were just doing the bare minimum at this point. Okay. If they would have moved a pillow upstairs in my bedroom, they would have seen all behind my bed was all dirty fucking needles. Okay. So she said, everything looks fine. We'll be in touch. And she walks past me down my steps and gets into her car. And I'm smoking and I'm smoking and I'm smoking. They start backing up and I jumped up and I was like, wait. And she had a student child protection worker with her, somebody that was there on placement. The girl that was there on placement that took my children, I ended up using with years later. Just, I like to throw that little tidbit in there. So I was like, wait. And the student saw me. The worker didn't. She tapped her on the shoulder and she said, hey, she's trying to get in touch with you there. So she puts the car in park and I walked down to the car and I went, I'm lying. We're fucked right up. We're doing IV cocaine. We're really fucked up and these kids are not safe. And they were just like, what? I'm like, you got to take them. No, this has got to end. And I wasn't making sense and I was stuttering over my words and she didn't even take her. She said, if you don't feel safe, and we didn't, call somebody to take her because I can't apprehend right now. I'll be in touch. And that's what we did. We called his mom. His mom took her. And the rest is history. After they were taken and they were no longer in our care, I was gone. He hung around his mom's and helped with Emily for a bit. He hung out he was staying, we separated because we were just beating the shit out of each other all the time. So we separated. He went and stayed with his sister. I was at my girlfriend's house. We were always having meetings with CAS. He was making me look like the bad guy. I was saying I am the bad guy. I don't want to parent. I don't want to be nothing. Or I don't want to get better. Please, I don't want to parent right now. And I was being honest. Like, I was like, no, I don't want nothing to do with the kids. Like, thank you. Go. Bye. That's how I felt. It's sick, but I'm being honest. And, it had been a week, a couple days, something like that. And he was emailing me and I wasn't responding. And we had gotten into a physical altercation with our neighbor living next to our house. And we were really, really high and it ended up happening. And there was assault charges. So there ended up being a warrant for our arrest because of an altercation we got into with the neighbor. And he knew there were warrants for both of our arrests. So we're split up. He's sending me shit on Facebook, trying to talk to me, and I don't want nothing to do with it. I just want to go off and be a single high lady, okay? And do all the sex work I can and get all the money that I could. I didn't give a fuck about nothing else, period. So he's messaging me one night and I'm like, he's acting really weird. He's saying things like, just know whatever happens tonight, it's because I love you. Just know whatever happens tonight, it's because you're sick. This is what you need. And I'm thinking, I said to my girlfriend, I'm like, can he have me committed? Like, look at what he's saying. This is fucking, what is he doing? And she's like, no, he can't have you committed. You're not married or nothing. So I'm like, he's fucking acting sus. Something is going on. I ended up doing a call, made some money, and I'm going to get into my truck to go see my baby dad number 3. He wasn't my baby dad at the time yet, but I'm going to see him, my plug. And I get in the truck and I'm with my friend's neighbor or something. I think Sean was with me. We get in the truck. I turn the car on and the gas light's on. And I'm like, oh, fuck, the gas money. So I turned around, I went back in the house. And as I'm opening the back door, there's a knock at the front door. And in a townhouse, you can see, in her townhouse, you could see right from the front to the back door. So I walk in the back and my friend who lives there is opening the front. She hears a knock at the front. So simultaneously, both doors open and I walk in and the cops walk in the front. And they saw me and they yelled, and I was like, fuck no, bitch. And I start running. I'm out the back door, around the fence, down the parking lot, into my grandma's fucking building that she was in the back there. And I'm in my grandma's building and I'm running down the fucking never ending hallway, just running and running and running and running. And those motherfuckers went around and they caught me. And thank God my girlfriend, because I had been up for days trapping and doing 304 shit, days upon days upon days. I wasn't sleeping at all at this point. So I'd probably been up for a whole last fucking week, if not more. And my girlfriend gave me a Valium right before the cops arrested me, before they showed up. She had given me a Valium. And I don't do benzos. So it fucked me up good. So I'm in, he's the one, he got me arrested. He called in my warrant. He said where I was, and he said that I was suicidal. So he got me arrested, and on my birthday, it was also my 30th fucking birthday. So I sat in jail for 3 fucking days on some bullshit. And then I got out, and I went right back to it. And I remember we were going to see my plug again, me and my girlfriend, and we're driving back. And I see my baby dad walking down the highway, and it's like 3:00 in the morning. And she had just bailed me out of jail, and there was a no contact with my baby dad. We weren't supposed to be talking because he was my co-accused. And I looked at her and I was like, please, can I please talk to him? And she was like, you got 10 minutes. So she pulls over to the side of the road, and I got out of this car, and does this fucking dude not pick me up and throw me over his shoulder and would not give me back to my friend. He was like, you guys went and got dope? You got dope? I want dope, or I'm not giving her back to you. And I'm on bail, and she's my surety. And he's the type of motherfucker that will call and get me arrested again. Okay? So we're doing whatever he's telling us to do. We go to my old house that was abandoned, and we're trying to cook crack with a pop can and shit. And it was a whole fucking mess. And she was done. She was like, you guys, you can sit here and fight with him. I don't know if you're going to end up in jail. Just come home later. And she left. And I ended up sleeping at his mom's house that night across the street. And I remember in the morning, he got my little baby girl, but little naked baby girl. I'll never forget her little bum in my hands. And he put her on me. I'll never understand. I'll never understand what that girl was thinking. That beautiful little baby girl. All 3 of my kids. Just beautiful. What I wouldn't give to go back. What I would not give to go back. So we end up like reconciling, and his mom is having to go back to work. So she asked my girlfriend if my girlfriend, like the girl I was staying with, if she could watch my daughter while she went to work, which meant that we would have my daughter, which was against CPS. But because it was at my mother-in-law's discretion and she chose my friend, as long as my friend was there, I guess it was whatever. But there was some shit that happened, and I was doing sex work. I had this apartment that my plug had set up for me. He had given me a phone. I called it my trick phone. It was a phone that he made the ads. And I was just doing sex work, and he would steal my money, like all the time. He would steal my drugs, like all the time. That's what he would do to me. He would let me do work. He would let me make money, and then he would steal it from me. And this one time, it was like the next day after this all happened, we were fighting over a gram of Coke in the kitchen, and I had Emily in my arms. And I remember my buddies were standing here, my girlfriend's boyfriend and his buddy were all in the kitchen, and my baby dad just swung at me and punched me right in the fucking head, right in the middle of the forehead. And you can see in my mugshot, not this one, but the one from that arrest where he called in the warrants, you could see the big goose egg on my head because he just popped me right in the fucking face while I was holding our daughter. So yeah, after the kids were taken, there were a lot of times where I just wanted to die. I didn't know what I thought if I was going to be able to come back from it. I don't know what I was thinking, but I was not thinking about my children. And there were so many times where my mom would show up at the house with these kids screaming for me, and I wouldn't come outside. They didn't just take my kids. They took the lie I'd been living in, that everything was okay, that I still had time. I didn't. I kept telling myself I was functioning, that I was getting by, that as long as my kids were fed and breathing, I wasn't doing that bad. I told myself I could fix it all later, after the next hit, after the next high, after the next time. I swore I'd never do it again. But when they came and took them, it ripped the curtain off everything I've been trying to hide from, even from myself. It wasn't just about losing custody. It was the moment I lost the illusion, the denial, the fake control. It was like the world pressed pause and said, look, this is what's really going on. And then the thing that still chokes me up is this. I didn't even fight right away, because a part of me believed that I didn't even deserve them. I believed that the system was right, that maybe I had messed up too many times to even be trusted. That moment didn't just break me, it showed me I'd already been broken for a really long time. I just didn't want to look at it. So when people say they took your kids, what they don't know is they also took the delusion I'd been surviving in. And that might have been the first real gift I ever got from rock bottom. I used to think the system was out to get me, but the truth, I gave them every reason to. And that truth hurts like hell. For a long time, I convinced myself the system was my enemy, that the courts hated me, that CPS was out to get me, that no one wanted to see a girl like me win. But the truth is even harder than that. The truth is, I gave them every reason to step in. Every dirty urine, every missed visit, every time I said I'd change, and I didn't. I wasn't the victim in that courtroom. I was the storm. And accepting that I had become the danger I'd swore I'd protect my kids from, the truth hit harder than the judge's gavel. Because once you own your part in the pain, there's no more blaming anyone else. It's just you and your choices. And it hurts like hell. And it'll hurt forever. I wasn't living. I was just moving, spot to spot, man to man, lie to lie. Traps weren't homes. They were hideouts. And I was hiding from everything, including myself. So after my kids were taken, my girlfriend and I still had her children. And by this point, her addiction had also spiraled really bad. She was also doing sex work. I had brought her into my crazy world. And this is something that I will probably live to be ashamed of and have guilt about for the rest of my life. Even though she's doing amazing today and thriving, I still don't have closure because I feel like I owe her a huge amount of amends. But anyways, so she still had her kids, and I remember telling her, looking at her and saying, this is not safe. These kids are not safe. Neither of us can handle even hearing them. We're leaving them with people that they don't even know. You need to get rid of them. I told her she needs to get rid of them. So she called up her cousin and said, I'm dropping my children off. I can't be a parent right now. And we left our children. Mine were already probably gone about a month, not even. And then she left hers and we went into the city. And I had found out that a buddy of mine had a trap. So I went and knocked at his door. I hadn't seen him in quite a while, a couple of years. And I had said, hey, I had just found out I was pregnant. I said, we both lost our kids. This is my friend. We will piece you off any sex work money that comes through your house if you let us stay here. And he did. And we stayed there for months and months and months. I separated from my baby dad. He was staying with family and our daughter. And I was living at a trap house and doing sex work to survive every day, all day. And it was horrific. Like my addiction was to the point where I couldn't even shoot up anymore. And I was covered in abscesses and track marks and bruises, and I was doing sex work that way. And men were paying for my services all day, every day. The people in this particular trap weren't that bad at the time. I have a very big, bold, scary personality, and I was very quickly able to kind of take it over. I didn't really allow very many people in, unless they were like irregulars or if they had dope. But it was just this 2-bedroom, 2-floor place in the projects. And it was a trap. And he would get his son like twice a week. I remember like waking up and this little like 6-year-old being there. And anyways, yeah. I'll never forget the smell of this place. I'll never forget the radio and the songs that would play over and over and over and over again. And then one night, I think I told this story, but I had been hanging out with my friend and her boyfriend, and he had set us up in a hotel because this place that we were trapping in, there was no food. It was gross. There was no toilet paper. It was gross. So her boyfriend set us up in a telly, gave us a bunch of dope to work off, and we spent a couple days in the telly. I didn't know at the time that my baby dad was like stalking the trap that I was living at and was watching us. So one morning, it's like 6 o'clock in the morning, I'm coming back from the telly. I'm driving my friend's truck. It's me and my 2 girlfriends. And I see my buddy Russ on the side of the road, and we're on our way to his house, his trap. And I'm like, hey, fat fuck, get in the car. So I kind of pull over and he jumps in and we go through the lights and get into the parking lot. I didn't know my baby dad was on the other side of the road because he had been watching, right? Who else? Somebody else that had been watching were the police. So the police were watching the trap and they watched all of what is about to happen go down. So we pull into the driveway and we're walking from the truck to the door. And my girlfriend that I'm with has warrants, and she'd been on the run for some time, and she was trying to make enough of a plan to be able to have some money to pack up to go in because she knew she wasn't going to get out. So we're walking to the door and all of a sudden I hear yelling and screaming, and I turn around and it's my fucking baby dad. And he's got this big butcher knife in his hand, and he goes and he slashes all the tires on my friend's truck. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me right now? Then he starts yelling and screaming at us, and he's fighting with my buddy Russ, and then he whips the knife at us, and the cops were watching the trap, so they watched the whole thing. I can't remember if they tased him or if they were telling him they were going to tase him, but as soon as we seen the cops, my girlfriend got spooked and started walking away real quick and looked very suspicious. And that's when the cop, who realized it was her, said her name and went and tackled her because they knew she had fucking warrants. So my baby dad slashed the tires on our only means of transportation, not even my truck, my friend's truck. Had all this crazy kerfuffle happen in front of the trap. Totally dry snitched us out and got himself arrested for 2 fucking months. So now I'm alone for 2 fucking months because my girlfriend just got fucking arrested. So now I'm fending for myself, and it's almost Christmas time. And at this point, the trap had gotten very crazy. Very, very, very crazy. So I left. It was being taken over by the riffraff. And they were violent, and they weren't very nice, and they were beating up my buddy all the time and stealing his disability check and robbing people, and I just didn't want to be there. I also was pregnant. I had found out I was pregnant a couple months earlier. By this time, it's almost Christmas, and I'm devastated. I want to go home to my kids. I called my mom. They wouldn't let me come home. So I went on this bender with this dude. And I remember it was like day 5, and I was getting real emotional because there was no dope left and we had no money. And he went into this building and I took off. I don't know. I don't even remember what we were driving, or it may have been before the tires were slashed. But I remember taking off and showing up at my mom's house and knocking on the door. And it's about 9:00 at night. And they were watching like the Grammy Awards. And the Christmas tree is up, and I'm wearing the same clothes I'd been wearing for days and days and days. I probably reeked. And I walk in and I'm crying, and I said, can I just stay here tonight? I miss you. I miss my babies. And Emily heard my voice and was screaming, Mama, 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 Mama. So I went and got her. I stayed at my parents' that night, and I left again the next day. And it was months until I saw them again. So it's Christmas Eve. I went on this meth bender, and I had missed the last abortion appointment. I had met somebody at the hospital when I was waiting for the abortion appointment, and she was coming out for a cigarette. I asked her for a smoke. It was a random girl that I didn't know. She proceeds to tell me that she's at the hospital because she's adopting a baby that's withdrawing from methadone. And she was adopting this girl that I had known because she went to my methadone clinic. She was adopting her baby. And that was the first time in my head where I thought, okay, maybe I don't have to have an abortion. And I said this on the podcast, but that was the first thought in my head. Maybe I don't have to have an abortion. Maybe I can give them up for adoption. I didn't really have much of a choice because I got arrested that day. I didn't have anywhere to stay. I couldn't have went to Toronto. So by Christmas Eve, I was having that baby. Like I was past the point of no return. So Christmas Eve, I had went on a big meth bender. I picked my whole face apart. A lot of the redness on my nose is from picking. I picked my whole face apart. He had been in jail for 2 months. I finally got a letter to him. He got a letter back to me, and I heard he was getting out on Christmas Eve. So I had nowhere to go. I was at the methadone clinic. I was crying. I was full of bobos. And my buddy's boyfriend and his dad were there. And he was like, they knew I was pregnant, and they were like, where do you have anywhere to go? And I said no. And they let me go home with them. They let me spend Christmas with them and their family. So my friends take me to their apartment. I get to spend Christmas with them and their children. He's no longer with us. He passed away of a drug overdose 2 years ago now, but they took me in and they gave me a beautiful Christmas. I don't know where I would have went. I don't know what I would have done. I don't know what would have happened if they didn't do what they did that day. Because I was there, I had the internet. I had access to the internet, and I had gotten a message from my baby dad that he had gotten out the night before, and his mom won't let him leave, or like wouldn't let him use the internet to contact me, and he was flipping out. And I guess he got really drunk and ran into the woods and said he was gonna himself. So they called the cops and they put him in the mental institution. So he went from jail, home, and the very next day, the mental institution. So I leave my girlfriends. I go downtown because I don't know where I'm going, what I'm doing. Like, it's Christmas. I can't keep staying with these people. Like, so I find my other friend and I said, can I please come and stay at your house? So she was like, yeah, no problem. So I went there and I used her phone and I called him in the psych ward. And that day I went and saw him and I pretended to be his sister and I got him out of the psych ward after a couple days. And that's when we reconnected. We reconnected in right after Christmas. So January probably, or December 28th of 2016. We reconnected for another 2 years. So after we get back together, we're homeless, right? So it's hard to find a place for yourself. Never mind if you want to stay with your partner. It's hard for couples to find places to stay. It's easier for a girl by herself, definitely not with a boyfriend that had horrible psychosis. So we were homeless. I had found this shelter. I had been staying there for a bit. So I had told him, let's just go stay at this shelter. It's a co-ed shelter. It's just a big open room with a whole bunch of cots and couches and TVs. It's like a big giant trap run by the Homeless Network. So from about Christmas or New Year's until April, we were on the street. So I had been on the streets from October until April. And our addiction was still really bad, but it had kind of taken a back burner because we were literally just trying to survive. So how our days would go is we would get up at 7. They would kick you out of the shelter. You would have to pack up all your belongings. You weren't allowed to leave anything there because there's only a certain amount of beds. So you may not get into the shelter the next night. So you couldn't leave nothing. And I was pregnant, probably 5-6 months at this time. So we would get up 8 o'clock. We would go to the Tim Hortons, and we would stay there until the soup kitchen would open up. And then there was always a group of us. It was like me, my baby dad, and like a group of guys. And we slept together in the same corner of the shelter. We ate together. We panhandled together. We got dope together. We did it all together. So we would go from the soup kitchen, and then throughout the day after breakfast, we would do our running around. So either panhandle or boost or try to figure out what we were going to do to get money to get dope. I usually would spend that time sleeping at the methadone clinic because I was pregnant and I was exhausted. So it was a lot of just like wandering around and trying to come up with scams and schemes. You know how it rolls. That's just what our life was. And then, so when we got back together after he got out of jail, I wasn't doing any sex work yet with him. He was very involved in it before, like when we had the kids and had just lost them. We were staying at my friend's house. He was very much involved. Him and my other baby dad were both very much involved, but I wasn't doing it at that time. And then we got an apartment, and the apartment we got was literally down the path from the stroll. And we would do good for a little bit, and then we would get like a check or something, and it would all go to dope. And then it was like a vicious cycle. So his psychosis is getting progressively worse, where he's hallucinating when he's sober. He's hearing things when he's sober. He's getting extremely violent. He jumped out of our 3rd-story window and broke all his ribs. He barricaded himself in the neighbor's apartment. He was constantly calling the cops on me. So we would separate. We would get into a big fight. The cops would get called. I'd go to jail because it was always me that went to jail, never him. I would go to jail, big fucking pregnant. And then it was the same cycle. I'd walk back home. We'd reconcile. And then I started doing sex work, and he started supervising it. And so much happened in that short amount of time, from, say, I hate thinking about this shit. It's so fucked up. I was doing sex work while I was pregnant. I had the baby in June. And I went from labor and delivery right to the mental health, to the psych ward. I stayed there for 2 weeks. Jamie ended up coming to the hospital, telling me that she would take the baby. My mom showed up and did take the baby and made sure he wasn't going to foster care. He was born extremely addicted to drugs. He was in the hospital for almost a month on morphine. He had horrible withdrawals. He didn't cry. He didn't stop crying for like the first year of his life. And I was just off, back in active addiction. And from the mental institution, I went to rehab for a bit. He went to rehab for a bit. We both got back out. We got back out in August, both on the same day. Hadn't talked to each other since the baby was born. The baby came out a different race. So my son is mixed. I didn't know he was not my daughter's dad's. I thought he was going to be his. He was not. He was my drug dealer's. Okay. So yeah, that was fun to find out. And the day that I went into labor, my baby dad was arrested for a shit ton of human trafficking charges, because he was also my PIMP. Isn't that sweet? So, I was just thinking about the night I got pregnant. That was, anyways. Okay. So he gets arrested for a bunch of human trafficking shit. He's gone to the penitentiary. Thank fuck. But child protection says to me, hey, who's this baby belong to? And I was like, him. They went to the jail. They said, hey, do you want to do a paternity test? He said, no, I don't want nothing to do with it. Perfect. So he has nothing to do with nothing. No rights, nothing. Bye. So, where was I? We got out of rehab at the exact same time, me and baby dad number 2. And I'm walking down the street, he's walking up the street, and we run into each other. And the first thing he said to me is, I don't want that baby. And I was like, I know. Like, I understand. You can't be mad at me because you were just as involved. You drove me to do it the night that I got pregnant. Like, you can't be mad at me, but I understand that you don't want nothing to do with the baby, and neither do I. I didn't. I had no bond with him. I did not want nothing to do with him. That's why I find it very hard to wrap my head around the fact that Jamie was under the assumption that I was like trying to fight for him back, because I don't have any recollection of that. I have a recollection of having access visits, because I was having access visits with all of my children, but I don't remember intentionally trying to like start. But it has to be true, because I know I was saying stupid shit all over the internet about her and whatever. So, but I told him I didn't want nothing to do with the baby. So from, say, August until January, we're on the streets again. And then I'm doing SCX work that whole time for a good 6 months. His psychosis is getting out of control. He's, being very violent and robbing me. And, I have no ill will today about it, but at the time it was really scary, because he wasn't who he was. Like, he was a completely different person when he would get psychosis, and he was always convinced that I was trying to hurt him. So he didn't care. He would hurt me, because he thought I was legitimately trying to have him killed. Like, I know he was convinced of that. So like, no shade to him, but he was absolutely terrifying, and he did a lot of fucked up shit. If you've ever dealt with somebody you love being in cocaine psychosis, when it's a man, it's terrifying. So we were beating the shit out of each other all the time. And then he got he got a room for rent. I don't think I was even supposed to be there, but he got it on his check. So we had a room. But it was a room that was filled with mice and fucking roaches in a crack den. It was literally the most disgusting rooming house. We had to share a bathroom and a fucking shower. It was disgusting. Like, I wanted to string up so bad. I don't know how I survived it, but it was awful. And I was doing SCX work the whole fucking time. And then I think in January, I asked him, let me make up a story to go to the domestic violence shelter. I will get us a fucking apartment. I can't live here anymore. And he got mad at me because I was going to tell them that he hit me or something just so I could get in. And he was pissed about that. And I'm like, shut the fuck up. Let me go. I'll feed you every day. You stay here and we'll get a fucking nice subsidized place. So that was the plan. And I felt bad. Like, he was staying in this place. And I told him, like, you really should get into sober living. And he did. And that was the end for us. One day I went to go message him after 4 years and everything that happened. I went to go message him one day, and he had blocked me off everything. And we haven't spoke to each other since. We haven't spoke to each other since. He went off to get clean. And I know he did the right thing, and I have no shade or no ill will. It's just a really fucked up way to do it. It's a fucked up way to do it. So there's that. We didn't fall in love. We fell into active addiction together. And somewhere in the middle of the dope runs and the late night screaming matches, we convinced ourselves that it meant something. We weren't partners. We were each other's poison. We mistook chaos for connection, violence for passion, and pain for loyalty. We thought chasing each other through trap houses and trauma was some sick game of ride or die, but really, we were just dying. Slowly, loudly, wrapped in each other like a noose. We used together, lied together, watched the worst parts of ourselves come alive in each other. And still, I still loved him. Or maybe I just loved the way he broke me in a way that felt familiar. And then when everything crashed, when there was nothing left but shattered glass, lost kids, and our names on case files, he got to walk away. He cleaned up. He got his redemption. He got to be forgiven by people who weren't even there to see what actually happened. And me, I was left with the memories, the damage, the healing, alone. He found God, I found silence. He moved on, and I moved through. I cried in rooms that he's never even had to sit in. I faced consequences he's never carried. I picked up what we broke, piece by piece, without anyone clapping for me. And that's the part no one talks about. When the man who hurt you gets to be reborn while you're still stitching up the wounds he left behind. But I didn't stay broken. I rebuilt. I clawed my way back to a version of me he never even deserved to meet. And I did it without revenge, without begging, without pretending it didn't matter, because it did matter. It nearly killed me, but it didn't. So no, he is not my forever. He's just a chapter, a painful, blistering, necessary chapter. And the story keeps going without him, without shame, and with a woman who finally knows what real love isn't.